Hello and welcome to this episode of Startline with me, Beth Espy. Now, until now, we've spoken to riders who are looking to do the MGP for the first time. But today, we're going to speak to two racers who are hoping to make it back to the start line after what's been a really, really difficult season. So the riders we're talking to today will be very well known to many people within the motorsport world, and they talk us through what 2025 has been like so far. They were able to get together for this, which was brilliant. And it's just interesting hearing about the fact that obviously we know that motorsport has a side that can be quite dangerous. And when you're caught up in that and still then focused on getting back to racing, it must be such a difficult process, but they just articulate it so well. They also have some advice a little bit later on for anybody who is thinking of doing the MGP for the first time.
Hi, I'm Damian Horan from Athlone in the Midlands in Ireland. Full-time welder and part-time crash test dummy.
I'm Andy McAllister. I'm from Bangor on the east coast of Ireland there. Yeah, 50% plumber, 50% agent. Try and not crash too much, not as much as Damian anyway.
So we should say at this point, you are both in the same house, but you've just said it's a bit like you've had an argument. You're sitting in separate rooms. So
his haircut's in the squares.
Bitch.
I'm sensing this is going to be one of the ideas that I might regret having, but it's okay. We're going to, this is going to be fine. First of all, we'll start with you, Damon. I think let's just set the scene a little bit. I think it's fair to say 2025 probably not been the best year race-wise for you, and just where are you up to with everything recovery-wise?
Yeah, 2025. It started out pretty okay with a couple of decent short circuit meetings, and then we went to the first road race of the year in Cookstown, where it was a funny weekend anyway of red flags and odd weather and stuff like that. But I think by the time we got out, I was out in the Superbike A race. By the time we had got out, that was race 10. There'd probably been about 9 red flags and an odd sort of a day anyway. But first 3 laps of the race was great. Made good progress up to about 10th position, and over one of the high jumps at the back, I kind of seemed to land awkwardly, knocked the pads back, and when I went down into probably 100, 120 mile an hour, went into first gear corner and no brakes. So went straight out into a field, through a concrete fence, and ended up being air medded to Royal Victoria Hospital in Belfast with a lot of injuries. So I suppose that was the 26th of April. We're at the 8th of November now. I've had 4 skin grafts, 7 operations, and 2 months in hospital, and at home recuperating ever since with a metal cage on my legs. So yeah, I've kind of missed nearly the whole season now, but I'm slowly on the mend now. I'm still pretty immobile, but I hope to get this cage off my leg before Christmas, all going well, and try and get back on my 2 feet, but it's been, it's not been ideal. Saved me fortune on tyres this year, but it hasn't been ideal now, to say the least.
And Damon, from a point of view of like how you get over something like that mentally, how have you been, obviously not being able to get out and do what it is you really love doing?
It's been very hard now. It's, I suppose initially, when I was air medded to hospital, and then they had to do emergency surgery actually to save the leg, which gave me a bit of a fright now, if I'm honest. And you're kind of in automatic mode for that first number of days, weeks, couple of months. You don't really get much chance to think about stuff like that. But I think, I got out of the hospital on the 11th of June, and you're home here and watching the world go by, and it gives you a lot of time to think. You're off sick leave, you're not working. It gives you a lot of time to think about everybody's out on the bikes. In one stage, I'm gutted. I missed the Manx, missed the Classic TT, missed RMI, missed Tangic E, which was just back. It had just come back from first time, and you miss all of these things, and it's so hard. But then I look down the end of the bed there, and I still have my leg. I'm very, very lucky, So it's a bit of a struggle that way. Like, road racing it's the one thing that gives me peace in my head at times when I put my helmet on. But it was a serious accident. So I've been very, very lucky, you know. So you kind of have to balance one off the other at the moment, you know.
And we'll talk about this a little bit more later, but at this point in time, is there any question of you getting back to racing or certainly wanting to?
Oh, I absolutely want to, yeah. 100%. You know, we go on kind of winter testing there with Ernie Coates every March out to Spain, and it's a great time. 4 days on track gets you really geared up. And you know, the link came up the other day on the WhatsApp group. It's time to book 2026 for March. That was a tough one because I ain't going there this year or next year, and I really enjoy it. You know, it really is a great start to the year, and you kind of start thinking, this is not practical. I'm not going to be getting back racing anytime soon. And then you kind of look and you go, oh, still on my leg. At the moment, I can't even think about that because I just have to concentrate on getting better, getting back. At the moment, I can hobble around a little bit, but I'm kind of on crutches and learning to walk with this leg again, you know, so a bit of a long road ahead. I've looked at the bike now and that's in a sorry state, but I suppose the best way of answering it is, at the moment now, in the condition I am, I have to basically get myself back to full fitness, you know. At the moment, I can't bend my knee any more than maybe 90 degrees, need a load of physio and bits and pieces. And before I even get up and ride a road bike, I'm going to need a lot of physio, a lot of bits and pieces like that, you know, so it's going to take time.
Andy, let's come to you now then. Obviously, we know again, you haven't had the best, certainly best end to your racing season this year. That was an incident during the Manx Grand Prix. Where are you up to with everything?
Well, so it was like we had just geared the whole season up to that point between building the classic Superbike and building the 600 to really try and make it go at the senior this year. The arm there was badly damaged, badly broken, the left arm going around the Black Dub complex. The rear end puncture, didn't realise, and the bike went sideways on me. So we hit the curb, and then the airbag shit went off, which saved me, you know, because we bounced off a few things. But the arm there had the surgery done in Nobles. Great job. A couple of bits of metal in it and a load of bolts holding the bones in the right places, you know. So it's coming along rightly. Slowly sort of got back to work there with the one arm, you know.
And you know, the thing that really struck me was that you were able to get back, Andy, to the paddock after you were released from hospital, but you just kept to go around and said you were so sorry for having caused that incident and obviously having to stop the qualifying session. That must be such a feeling, you know, when you're going through that physically, but also just worrying about the impact it had on everyone else.
Because we all know how volatile the weather can be, and to be given a window of beautiful blue skies that night, and I caused a red flag within the first 10 minutes. You know, it kind of goes, holy shit, what a day for this to happen, you know. And I just know what it's like, you know, what it means to get a good night's practice. And that's why I felt bad, you know, because it's sort of spoiled the evening for everybody. Time is precious when you're over there, especially in practice, you know, because guys with a couple of different bikes, you know, you're thinking, right, I'll definitely get 2 laps on that one, I'll maybe get a lap on that one. This is where everybody's head's geared up, you know. So yeah, that was just my initial reaction, you know.
And Damian, you were actually at home listening to the MGP as it was happening. When you found out that it was Andy who'd been involved in that incident, what were those sort of first conversations like between you two?
Well, do you know, with us kind of always kind of, I suppose, helping each other, like, you know, I suppose it's a thing with privateers, you know, especially when we be good friends, you know, he helps me, I help him, you know, so we had, you know, even though this year I wasn't able to compete at the Manx and stuff, you know, Andy was over and back, constantly over to the house here and doing stuff with his bike and blowing petrol tanks and robbing all my spares and bits and pieces and stuff like that. And so you're very invested in, you're listening out for all the other riders on Manx Radio, and, you know, you're listening to everybody, but obviously you'll be listening for Andy, how he's getting on and all that, you know. But, you know, he had missed the first day there, and you're kind of put you on the back foot a little bit, but he is a sensible enough head at times, you know. I spoke to him before he went out, and he went right out for 2 steady laps, and he just see how it goes, you know. But then when the red flag came, you know, when the red flag comes out, you kind of, in your head, and I think most racers do this, is in your head you go, right, red flag was at this time, and all your kind of buddies and that are racing the kind of right, they started at X, Y, and Z, so they'd be at certain parts around the track, so you kind of go, right, he'd be definitely past this or he'd be definitely past that. But I kind of had a feeling that Andy was somewhere there, but I didn't know straight away it was him until I was speaking to him. But yeah, it kind of makes you think sometimes, I suppose the worry that our loved ones have when we're racing, when you're not competing yourself and you're listening to your friends racing, you have that worry and you kind of go, you're just waiting for a phone call to make sure they're all right, Accidents happen for different reasons, but as it turned out, the accident was something that couldn't be avoided. Like, you can't, when you pick up a rear tire puncture at speed, you're going down, especially a section like that, you're going down. It's just what you avoid hitting on the way, So he was very lucky, We're all conscious of that.
And that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, these things just happen so quickly. But I've heard other people say that when you're going through something like that, it's almost like time stands still almost. How aware are you that something is actually happening and that it's going to be quite serious?
It's one of those things, Beth, that whenever you're on the bike, your brain's dealing with things very, very quickly, reacting just to things, It's not like things slow down, but when you're a competitor and you're out on the road, your brain deals with things automatically and very quickly, so it disregards things that don't matter. So I suppose time does sort of slow down a wee bit in a way. So your reactions, I don't know whether you have more time to react if you need to, but there's things like that there was just totally unavoidable. My approach to that corner, I just felt a bit of a rumble out of the back of the bike and I thought, that's a bit strange. I'll pull in at Glenhill, at the bottom of the hill before we go up to the cottage. I thought there's room to pull in there because heading towards the dub, you're snorting on through there in fourth gear. And as soon as I tipped into the left, she just went round, and from that point, I have no memory. But even Barry Sheen couldn't have saved that. It was just one of them things.
And given then what you've had to go through over the past few months, are there any regrets about the fact that you've taken this sport so seriously and that it's kind of left you in this state at the moment?
You can't have regrets. You can't have regrets when it comes to things like that because, you just wallow in self-pity. I kind of regret getting up that morning and throwing on my helmet in Cookstown. As I said, it was an odd kind of a day and there'd been so many red flags and so much changing in weather and all that. And I was out in race 10, race 12, and then out in the grand final. And between the Superbike and the Classic Superbike, and I was getting to the stage where I had actually said it to Julie at one stage. I said, do you know what? If there's another bloody red flag, I'm just packing up and going home. Because you're there for a signature for the Manx and you don't want to be sticking your neck out. You don't want to get fucking rammed by somebody and this and the other. There's a lot at stake because as Andy said, you gear everything up towards the Manx Grand Prix in August and, you put a lot of money into the bikes, into yourself and that. And it was a strange one. I suppose you can't have regrets, but yeah, I do think, that it was a bit of a strange one, You
mentioned Julie there, and I think, we've spoken on another podcast, Damian, that it's so important to have those people around you who give you that support to help you do what it is you love doing. And I'm guessing when you're going through this recovery, I can't imagine what it's been like for Julie.
No, it's a tough one, and she loves bikes, she loves racing and stuff like that. But it's a tough one for her. She's seen the other side of it. She's seen me, getting airlifted away and in the hospital in a really rough shape. When a surgeon turns around and says to you, we're going to do everything we can here, but you might wake up without that leg. It's a very sobering thought to, especially for your loved ones. I could see she just went pale. I went a bit pale myself, but the fact that it is that serious, that you've injured yourself that badly, and also. But I had 8 weeks in hospital there in the Ulster hospital, and to be honest, I couldn't have been in a better place. I honestly believe if they had shipped me down south, repatriated me down south, I probably wouldn't have the leg, because the expertise they had up in the north here to basically rebuild my leg, it was second to none, but it puts a lot of things in perspective. Like I got out of hospital in June, couldn't move, couldn't do anything, so I can do nothing. Been relying on Julie very heavily there, since starting to get to the stage where I can get up and walk around with crutches. Yeah, made Andy a bacon sandwich this morning. I think that's the first time I've cooked for myself since before the accident. But So I rely very heavily on Julie for everything, this fear loved ones when these happens. And it's, it's happened to all of us as racers, and that we get a stage where we're incapacitated or we're badly injured, and much and all as your loved ones, they love the sport, or even if they don't love the sport, they support the sport you love, Sometimes, it's a big test to them as to how many times you're going to do this to yourself again. I wouldn't be a regular crasher and stuff like that, but I've had a few crashes in the last 15 years and they always seem to be big ones, so it's tough on the ones at home,
And then Andy, for your family supporting you over the past few weeks, how have they found it?
Similar to Damian and Julie there, Judith, we actually just got married the week before I went to the Manx. So it was a big shock to the system, to Judith whenever she got the call. She wasn't on the island at the time. Two of my buddies were over with myself, and she got the call, but scared the life out of her. But her support's been fantastic. Yeah, I'm not in as bad a shape as Damian, where I can be a lot more sort of independent, obviously. But by the by, it's a family there, two sisters and my brother and that, and it affects them, but they understand who I am and what I do, and that's not trying to discourage me from following my passion and my love, because we all have a fire burning inside us, so they know that, and they know the person I am, and as I do with everybody that I know, nobody should be a judge of somebody else, but support means a lot, and I've been getting it, so that's great.
Unfortunately for Damon, you are a little bit more mobile, so you can drive and see him whenever you want. And Andy, in terms of your racing future, I mean, is getting back on the bike definitely on the cards for you?
Yeah, oh boy. Yep, definitely. It's there's things I haven't achieved yet that I want to achieve. The fire's still burning. Yeah, this is just a little setback, But like Damon was saying there, you sort of think, I wouldn't be a crasher myself. I have had a few over the last sort of 10 years not there, and two sort of big ones there, but once you recover, it's your new normal, and you just deal with things and you get on with it and never have regrets, because if you look behind you, you'll trip, so just keep looking forward no matter what you do. And I do my own stunts. Full guy.
You are listening to the Startline podcast, and today we're with Damian Horan and Andy McAllister. Well, the reason that we've got this podcast, the Startline podcast, is talking to people at the moment whose sights are set on MGP 2026. So they don't even know if they've got a place yet, but that is the absolute burning dream. I mean, you talked about that, Andy, everyone having that fire burning somewhere for something. Do you remember that time and what it was like?
Yeah, my first year was 2018. Putting my entries through, and my entry was just on whenever they run the 750s in the senior, and it's you're sitting waiting every day. You're checking your emails, or I must have pestered the life out of the girls in the office, at the time. But it's nerve-wracking because you base your whole pre-season or pre-Manx towards that, gather signatures, building bikes, but buying the best leathers you can, or doing everything as much as you can afford to do and be as prepared as you can. Even coming over to the island there in the car and for a weekend, just round and round and round and round, and sleeping in the car, flipping, driving till you nearly fall asleep, and then doing nighttime laps and everything, just whenever you focus, whenever I focus my mind on something, I put 100% into it, and especially at the Manx, it's not just it's not a track day, like it's something that you need to be bulletproof, in your mind, your memory, the road, everything, you need to be so committed to it. It takes that. And whenever you get the email to say you've been accepted, it's like you won the lottery. It's like somebody's just giving you a lottery ticket with the winning numbers on it, something that you've dreamt of. And you've watched your heroes and your icons over the years racing around, and finally, you're going to be there. And the first day that I stood on Bray Hill up on Glencruttree Road there, like the goosebumps on my body, and you're just looking down the road thinking, holy shit, I've actually made it. And it's like stepping into heaven off the bus, you kind of go, I'm here, or hell, or whatever you want to go to, but it's like winning It's like winning a gold medal. It really is.
Do you know what? You'd almost convince me that I'd want to do it.
Oh, you do?
But not quite. No, I don't. No, I really don't. I won't do it at 30 miles an hour. I've said this before. And Damian, just turning to you, what do you remember about that time when you were just waiting to find out if you'd got the entry?
It was a strange one. I actually, I was supposed to be a newcomer in 2014, and 6 weeks before in an Armagh in the Super Twin qualifying, I got cleaned over by another rider and basically shattered the same leg that's broken now and ended up in hospital and in a cast for 6 months. So that wiped out my... I always remember Doc John, God rest him, Dr. John Hines, the travelling medic, he treated me at the side of the road, and I just said it to him. I made him get me letters off without cutting them, and I kept on saying to him, I need these letters for the Manx in 6 weeks. And he just looked at me, and I was full of morphine, and he looked at me and he says, not this year, Damo, not this year. You know, I always remember that and being gutted. But when it came around to 2015, I think I got the cast off my leg first week in March, and 2 weeks later I was in Mondello Park racing just to see could I still ride the bike, you know, and came away from that going, right, let's go back road racing, you know. But I put my entry in for 2015, and I had and I think Andy would be the same, as we had the benefit of, I spent weekend after weekend with Davy Morgan, God rest him. Davy put us through our paces weekend after weekend over there, you know, teaching us the course and learning this, that and the other, you know, and so it was great credit to him that I know the course so well, you know, and couldn't believe it when I got the email to say, yes, you've been accepted. And I was the same, you know, we'd arrive on a Friday to do some laps and that, maybe off season, go in and see Anne and in the office and then go and do our laps. But when it came to entering, you know, when my newcomer's number was 7, so I was a newcomer, was number 7. I went, that's grand. And she said it to me when they were signing me on for the Manx. She said to me, do you know why we gave you number 7? And I said, no. She says, because you kept on pressing that button trying to enter, and he says you actually entered the Manx Grand Prix 7 times. The way the entry system is set up, you press it and sometimes you go, I wonder did that actually go through? So I sat there obviously on my laptop and I pressed it 7 times, and 7 separate entries came up, and they just rang me and went, you're a clown. So that's how I ended up with number 7 as a newcomer. And it was just, it was like, as Andy said, it was like a dream come true. When I was 10 years of age, I had a book, Road Racing by Mick Grant, and I read it from cover to cover. I used to get it in the library and I'd leave it back and then get it out again until it told me I couldn't get it anymore. And I always said at the time as a 10-year-old, someday I'll race the Isle of Man, thinking probably as an adult then I never would, you know. And actually I found that book in an auto jumble maybe in the 2005 or 2006, and I met Mick Grant in 2012 and he signed it for me. But you know, it was always a dream. It was always a dream to race over there, and you know, I've had a lot of good years now from 2015 right up to last year. You know, I've had a lot of good memories and a lot of good times there, you know, and you're kind of your whole year gears towards it. Like a lot of people, I'd be very bad at championships and stuff like that, you know. A lot of people gear themselves up for maybe short circuit championship. When you're headed towards the Manx, you basically do as whatever amount of races you need to do just to get your signatures, you know, for the Manx, and that's it. All the other time is spent either gathering a few quid or getting bikes ready, you know.
And you know, Damien, for anybody who's listened to this, who's waiting to hear whether or not they've got an entry, I wonder whether you'd swap places with somebody who's in that position at the moment.
Knowing what I know now, or as a raw newcomer?
No, go on. Knowing what you know now, because that'd be interesting actually. What's the one thing that you really wish you had known?
I suppose when you go out initially, you know, I suppose you were on the side of caution a lot of the time, and that's a really good thing to do, you know, to be able to go out now as a newcomer. Like I finished 4th in the newcomers race, and I still believe the newcomers race is a fantastic thing, and that I finished 4th in the newcomers race, and a back marker got in my way on the last lap, and I was held up in that section by 22 seconds. and I lost the podium by 18 seconds. And I always thought if I knew what I knew now, I would have gone inside of him instead of around the outside of him. But just, little things like that, you kind of just hindsight. But I couldn't take away from the excitement of your first orientation, your first time. And Paul Kermode at the time was tapping us on the shoulder. First time he taps you on the shoulder and you go down that hill and everybody is lining the roads and it's just you're the bike, the sound. There's actually nothing like it. There's nothing like it. And the first year you do it, the first time you do it is unbelievable, because the Manx Grand Prix Club, they really do treat the newcomers as a bit different, it's all new and everything, so it's the experience of your first year is just, you have to make the most of it because you only get it once.
And if you had then to give a piece of advice to somebody who is preparing, trying to learn the course, trying to get over if they don't live over here and do as many laps as possible, what would be the best thing that they could do at this point in time, would you say?
Laps. It has to be laps. You can watch onboards. The benefit of onboards from experienced riders is great. Do not look at John McGuinness or Davy Todd or Peter Hickman's laps because they bear no resemblance speed-wise, corner-wise, peel-end. They bear no resemblance. You look at a fast twin that's doing maybe 110 or something like that. You look at Brian Reed's 100-mile-an-hour lap on his 250 on YouTube and stuff like that. You look at them sort of laps and lap speeds and they bear a huge resemblance to where you're peeling in, what you're doing and stuff like that, and how fast things are coming at you. You watch them, but there's no substitute for getting into a car, which we had the benefit of Davy Morgan and teaching us and that. But, you have so many really good people on the island. If you can get over there and grab Carolyn Sells or grab someone like that, Barry Woods, people like that, and get a lap with an educated, experienced rider, it's worth its weight in gold because the things you learn. We had John Batty used to bring us on laps and he used to say, the speed he used to ride at was he would bring a super twin rider up to a certain pace and then he would maybe hand the newcomer over to a super sport guy who'd show him a bit more pace. So there's so much wealth of experience you learn more in one lap with an experienced rider than you do in 10 laps on your own.
Andy, you mentioned something when you talked before about doing laps at night. And I think I've heard that before, that's actually quite useful, even though it feels to me like you'd be completely disorientated. But is that something that actually works?
It doesn't make you disoriented because where your headlights is shining is where you're wanting to go. Everything else in your peripheral when you're on the bike, you don't see it anyway, so it might as well be dark. The road surface too, you see all the bumps, the undulations in the road, on the camber of the road, and where there's crests, it's in places that you're going to be at high speed maybe, which then, alter the handle on the bike. It was something that Joey actually suggested doing, that he did. And I picked that up, and I do it even at all the national road races. That it just so happened that a few years back when we still had a full Irish calendar, by the time I finished working the Friday and I got the van all loaded and I was heading down the road, it was always dark, and I always would have done half a dozen laps in the dark when I arrived before I went into the paddock. It puts it back in your brain, but certainly back to the question about at the island laps, absolutely, as much variety of laps on different CCs, different bikes, different videos, learning lines. Any newcomer now, but the advice is definitely you'll pick things from different people's laps. You take it all in first, take all your notes down, and when you do your newcomer laps in the car with the instructors, take notes down. One thing Michael Dunlap, I asked him for a bit of advice and he says, look Andy, just remember your rights and lefts. And at the time I kind of thought, that's a bit stupid, but it's true, because you're going to have, like over the mountain, you'll have 4 lefts and the 1, and the veranda is all a big right, and all these different things. You'll learn so much from being around different riders. Don't be afraid to go and speak to a rider. Whenever you're over at the Manx, even or anytime, through Messenger, through social media, contact a rider and say, look, I'm a newcomer. Is there anything you could tell me, or is there anything I should do, shouldn't do? And like that there, if there's any doubts or looking a bit of inspiration. I took down a lot of notes. Even Damian here gave me a lot of advice, filtered down obviously from the late Davy Morgan too. That's the wealth of advice that's out there. And it's all for a benefit too, because the more homework you do, the fresher it is in your mind. Like every morning, I went to the gym mainly to get on the bicycle because there's a screen there and you can type in, YouTube. I put the earphones in and you get to a point where you can close your eyes and you can break it down into sections and you know where you are. If you close your eyes, you know where the revs of the bike, the gear changes. It has to become second nature. Don't let yourself be afraid of it, but respect it because it is what it is. It'll bite you if you forget. So the more research and memory that you put into your brain, when you get over there, that program that you put into your brain will load up and you'll see all this and you go, why that there and then that there and then that there. It'll all start to make sense. Like this research on your memory. When you're on the bike, it's the bike, the noise, the vibration and your memory.
And Andy, would you want to go back if you could to being that newcomer for the first time?
I definitely would, because that feeling I got, you still get now, but it takes your breath away. If you sit in the stillness and you just look and you listen, there literally is nothing else like it. It's like standing on top of Mount Everest. It's the most humbling thing I've ever done in my life. Apart from maybe sit on the moon on a wee stool and have a cider and look at the earth, that might be something similar. But on this planet, I can't imagine doing anything more that will bring you back to nature's most basic of instincts. And it's just a very humbling thing. And I definitely would do it again, yeah.
Do you know what? It's incredible. I think if people anywhere, not even necessarily to do with motorsport, but if anybody could find what brings them that sort of feeling, that's life made.
Well, big time. We live in a very instant world nowadays, an instant reality, computers and AI and all this kind of thing. But when you do something for yourself, it's an achievement that you and a few good friends and family, and you're sharing this moment. I know we are the rider in the helmet, but we couldn't do it without the help of our friends and family. But, if you can do something that gives you so much self-achievement, that's what living is.
Amazing. Right, well, we're going to leave it there for now, but we are going to keep up to date with how you're both doing recovery-wise and hopefully see you back on a start line very soon. If people want to follow you on social media, Andy, where can they find you?
Either my Mac Racing page or just Andy Mac on Facebook or Instagram.
Wonderful. And Damian, where can people find you?
Well, I'm on just, my ordinary Facebook. I have a Damian Horan Racing page on Facebook as well, which I am an absolute disaster for keeping updated. But apart from that, and Instagram, which I actually rarely use, but a lot of the time it's just Facebook.
Well, we wish you all the very best over the next few weeks as you continue to recover. And it is approaching lunchtime, Damian, so you're going to make Andy a spot of something else to eat?
He's had his treat for the day now. I have to put him to work. He's fixed me plumbing. Oh yeah, he actually did. I might make him a cup of tea. He brought some nice buns there now, but
I don't want to ask about your plumbing. Your personal plumbing or in the house?
The plumbing in the house for my personal plumbing, yeah.
We're going to leave it there. Damian, Andy, thank you so much. It's been great talking to you.
All right, thanks, Will. Thank you. Yeah. Bye, Samuel. Take care.
Damian Horan and Andy McAllister, and we've got everything crossed that plumbing is well and truly sorted now, but just great to talk to them. We do wish them all the very, very best for the next few months as they continue to recover, and it will be brilliant to see them back both racing again. And didn't Andy just put it so beautifully about what it's like when this is a passion of yours and you can't think of anything else? And I think, like I said to him, if everybody had something like that, yeah, it would just be amazing. Do follow them on social media. Their links are on the podcast page and see how they're getting on. Thank you very much indeed for listening to this episode of Startline. Do take some time to find the riders on social media. Your support is very much appreciated. And if you'd like to get in touch with me and be part of the podcast in the future, you can email beth@startline.im.